Hey there, everybody. This is John Shutsky. I am a professor at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I'm also an extension specialist. I work in the area of agricultural safety and health. I'm the director of the Agricultural Safety and Health Center here at UW, and I also work very closely within our farm management program here in Extension. We're going to talk today about the COVID pandemic for those of you who are working out in the field this spring or getting ready to work and you're thinking about taking delivery here soon of whether it's seed, fertilizer, chemicals, other types of farm inputs, feed, supplements, those kinds of things. We want to make sure that you've got some good practical information to help you to reduce the risk. That there's a small amount of risk from these activities and practices, but they're definitely things that you can manage, and you can some practical suggestions that we will give you here today. First of all, in terms of handling product delivery, minimizing health risk, I want to just give a shout out to the National Corn Growers Association. Some of what we've put together in our guidance was actually adapted and adopted from the National Corn Growers. We've supplemented it a little bit just to acknowledge, just like the corn growers, the biggest risk that you face in this particular activity of accepting product is likely contact between people. It's not necessarily from a product. While that's possible, the chances of getting infected from some type of infected from a contaminated or product that has viral particles is very small. But we'll talk about how to minimize that risk here in a second. The first thing I want to just remind everybody, we're in this mode right now, and we probably will be for the next several weeks, possibly even the next several months, of what we're calling social distancing. I actually prefer to call it physical distancing because we're talking about a physical separation space. We are always talking now about 6 feet, maintaining a 6-foot space. Even if you're outside, that will dramatically reduce your potential to infect another person, or more likely for you to get infected. I just want to emphasize, I know that it's kind of standard practice in any business, and especially in farming. Handshaking, it's a big deal, I know that, but really in these times, it's not necessary. It is a potential mode of transfer for this particular virus. So making sure that you're maintaining that 6-foot separation distance. The more distance, the better. If you can stay 12 feet or 20 feet away from people, that's always better. And frankly, if you can use other types of communication devices, whether that's your smartphone, text messaging, email to communicate, that's going to be even better, because you will eliminate all potential risk of exposure from person to person altogether. We want to make sure that you have people who are coming onto the farm to drop off a pallet of product or a load of fertilizer or seed. You do want to make sure that you have some record of that. So we always recommend having people sign in, providing their name, their contact information, their cell phone number. When they sign in, have them use their pen. If that is not possible and you provide pens, make sure that you clean that pen off, because it would potentially have a theoretical risk of transferring virus if the person that's doing the signing, of course, is infected. How do you minimize the risk from delivery? Well, number one is to make sure that you have a designated spot for dropping off product. That should be away from people. It should be away from high traffic areas. So you want to avoid the house, the office, and the spaces in between. Also, any places where people gather, and that includes places where children might gather or where children might play. Make sure that you post instructions for delivery personnel in a language that they can understand. And again, make sure that those are communicated clearly. If it requires a cell phone call or two, make sure that you take those extra steps so that people know exactly where that product should be placed and stored. Let me just say one other thing. We do know for sure that sunlight will deactivate this virus, making it far less likely to cause infection. So if it's possible, store the product outside. I do realize from a safety and a security perspective, that's not always possible, but do know that sunlight is going to be your friend in this particular instance. Visual communication, I know that people like to be there to see that product being delivered. They like to make sure that they got the right product, that they got the right quantity. But think about maybe alternative ways of doing that. Again, making sure to at least maintain adequate separation distance. You could think about using a phone app, like using FaceTime to verify delivery, to verify that it is the product you're looking for. I do know that there are some consumer delivery companies now that when they put a product on your doorstep or they deliver a product to your home or as a gift to a family member. They'll actually take a picture of it with some background, so some context, so that you know it was delivered to the right location. And that might be another option that you could have in your protocol. So I want to talk about protocols, making sure that everybody on the farm, when we talk about these protocols, these practices that I've just talked about, everybody on the farm should understand these, including family members and hired non-family employees. The protection that you guys give each other is only going to be as good as the weakest link in that chain. So everybody's got to be following the practices and make sure that you provide the training and information that's required. Hand washing, I can't overemphasize hand washing. Washing with warm or hot, at least as warm as possible, soap and water, making sure that you dry your hands after washing them thoroughly for at least 20 seconds, making sure that you then dry them with a clean paper towel. Don't reuse an old hand towel or a shop towel. That only could potentially serve as a vehicle for spreading virus. Make sure you're also thinking about all potential contact surfaces. If you've got delivery people that are going into a chemical storage shed or a barn or the milk house to deliver product, make sure that you're thinking about the doorknobs, the handles, the handrails. If you're talking about vehicles, steering wheels, control levers, gear shifts, turn signal controls, all of these are things that you should be wiping down, sanitizing frequently. And then also be thoughtful and creative. Think of yourself like a CSI detective, and think about all of the places where this invisible virus could be spread through direct hand to surface contamination. You do have to be thoughtful, creative, and that includes also being thoughtful and creative anytime you travel, even if it's to go to the gas station to pick up some supplies, or you go and pick up some parts at the machinery dealer. Be thinking about those hands, where they've been, what other contact they might have had, and make sure you keep your hands clean. When you're dealing with product, we actually believe that the risk associated with handling actual boxes and containers and shipping product or shipping containers is probably pretty low relative to person-to-person spread. There is some good information that has been provided by the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control and the US Postal Service that says that the spread potential from shipping packages, from packages that have been shipped over a period of time in different temperature and weather conditions, that risk for package-based transfer of virus is probably pretty low. At the same time, having said that, there's also an article from the New England Journal of Medicine that has said that if somebody sneezes or coughs onto paper or cardboard, so again, if you've got a bag of product or a box that's cardboard, virus can remain viable and potentially infectious for up to 24 hours. On steel and plastic or metal and plastic for up to 3 full days. So you might want to consider, especially with paper and cardboard, perhaps not handling that product for the first 24 hours. Again, recognizing we have this security trade-off between storing products outside in the sunlight and then the potential for theft and risk, but knowing that sunlight actually does degrade and deactivates the virus, making it far less infectious. It is okay to spray down containers. If you have waterproof, whether it's bags or boxes that are waterproof or things that are plastic wrapped, it's okay to spray them down with a diluted solution, 1/3 of a cup of bleach, normal household bleach, diluted with 1 full gallon of water. If you put that in a clean, I want to emphasize a clean, uncontaminated garden sprayer, you get it pumped up, you put a fine mist, you get that product wetted down on the surface, you allow it to dry, that will in fact kill the virus. I would also want to just recommend that you always wear gloves, non-leather gloves, because leather could hold on to the virus. Leather is also very difficult to clean, so you might want to consider either nitrile gloves, plastic gloves, which are a little bit difficult to get a hold of right now, but even buying a bundle of a dozen jersey gloves, the brown cotton gloves, they're relatively cheap. They're about $1 a pair. You wear those gloves, and between each task, you switch the gloves out, you throw them in your pickup truck in a bag, and then you launder that bag of of used gloves and the laundering. If you use warm water, laundry detergent, and you dry them in a normal dryer, you will kill the virus. So again, some common sense approaches. We need to make sure that we put these risks into perspective. The virus is not magic. It doesn't hover over your farm and then suddenly descend and infect people. It almost always is person-to-person spread. So I hope that this has been helpful and practical. Again, I'd like to thank the corn growers. Also have a couple of other links here. We do have a website. I've got the link there. I won't read that off, but I will say cdc.gov is the Centers for Disease Control. Really encourage you to check back with them every few days, because their guidance is going to change a little bit from day to day. They are our central source of information, as is our State Department of Health Services. So I look forward to the day when we can all get back together in person and see many of you at some of the farm meetings and things where we all like to hang out. I look forward to seeing you in person. And in the meantime, we want you to stay safe and healthy during this planting season, and we hope you have a good one.